Believe, yeah, it says we are live. And you know what that means? It is time for GeekSpeak once again. And this week we are talking about WordPress and the new updates that are going to be allowing you to do full site edits. We'll dive into a little bit of what that means and why it's coming at this time, and what does that mean for average people using WordPress. My name is Phelan with Seymour Digital Media, and
And I'm Greg McKinnon with Original 72 Creative.
yeah. For some
You're
reason,
going
my
to say
brain was like
you
reading that. I was like, I don't know why I did that.
hey, man,
But yeah, that's. Are you
you
sharing
could
it?
work with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
today's topic is we may expand into like more about WordPress and its direction,
mhm,
but it's sort of a topic that came out of the fact that WordPress is moving towards the block builder, and
mhm,
with the block builder that they've created for editing content, they're moving towards also using those same blocks to actually build every aspect of your site, meaning the headers and footers and anything else, to give you what they're calling that full site editing experience. So that's sort of what we're going to talk all about today.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's sort of like it's been an outgrowth of WordPress in the last few years when they introduced the block builder to like try and move away from a more like coded experience, like where you have to like actually hire a developer and also not having like the divvy experience where it's like, yeah, you can drag and drop whatever you want, but it's like, yeah, you're gonna have a million divs and the site's gonna be slow as all hell.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's like
I
trying to
mean,
find that balance between the two, which I think they've been trying to work out.
yeah, for sure. I'm not even going to talk about Divi. Um,
Divvy bad. That's all we know is
feel,
Divvy
feel
bad.
like everybody's known my position on Divi for a very long time. When they first introduced Gutenberg, which is the block-based editor, really that was, like you were saying, their way to get with the times and become more of a page builder, like
Hmm.
Divi was, like Elementor is, and Beaver Builder, and all of those page building experiences. And it's gotten to a point where it's very powerful. I would say it's just as powerful as many of those block-based page editors that you could install, but it's all native in WordPress now, and there's no need to install those if I mean some people are really comfortable with those, but I would say one of the benefits of using the native block builder of WordPress is that many times elements that you put on a page have additional code with it,
Hmm.
and typically the experience of a page builder, you have all of these things that you can do, and everything gets loaded on the page for the sake of you might have used it in that page. But if you didn't, all of this additional code is being loaded, and the block-based builder native and block plugins. Um, if you're using that block on the page, the necessary code or CSS or JavaScript or anything that uses is used for that block to function would
Yeah.
only get loaded. So all of these other aspects of what's in the page builder, it doesn't load that entire thing. And I think they're starting to try to move away from that and do that more. But the block based builder is basically the only assets that you need will load on a page, making your site speed a lot faster.
Yeah, like when we were just talking about that, it made me think of like you kind of have a continuum, and on one side is customization, and on the other side is site performance. And a lot of the customizable ones, like your divvies and elementors, they give up a lot of performance, and so you're kind of in order to have like full customization, whereas like the block builder just kind of strikes the right balance, almost leaning more towards the performance because
Mhm.
it runs so minimal that you actually can have pretty fast speeds and still
Mhm.
feel like you get as much customization as you possibly want. And so and it's I think it's just it's just one of those situations that the block builder has done a pretty good job for doing what we needed it to do for something that like I was never a big fan of like you get to drag and like make it pixel perfect because that always seemed kind of stupid to me because like you have like a million different sizes of screens. So like being customized for each one of those is just it just seems like a futile effort. Like you're just gonna like smudge it and get it mostly looking good, and then you're always gonna have some outlier screen sizes. Like Pip's screen's way bigger than mine, and so like she'll look at a web page and it'll be like, "I've got all this extra white space." And we're like, "Yeah, but it's just like you and 10 other people that are gonna have that."
Yeah.
Whereas like most people are gonna have like an average experience, and you have to find that happy medium with like web design that not everyone's gonna have that same size screen as you.
Yeah. 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 I mean, if you've got like a 55 or 60-inch TV hooked up to your computer, I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
could have a page with an image and a nice paragraph of text, and on that, it's going to be like one line of text next to this small image. Whereas on a computer or a tablet, everything's going to be like use all of the real estate almost that's there,
Yeah,
and you won't have the
exactly.
white space. So um, I think people understand that now. Less so in the past. I remember back in my early days of really having to be like, okay, we're designing this site for this size, right?
Yeah.
Which means if people have smaller monitors, they're not going to see, if we're building it wider, they're not going to see that extra. Or if they have a much wider screen, they're only going to see the size that we're building for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really having to explain that to customers so they understood, well, why is there
Yeah.
so much white space for him, or why is there no white space for me? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that's I think things have kind of loosened up a little bit. I think in the web design market where people are understand that we're kind of looking at it this like it's not going to be exact everywhere. And that I mean also still use M's over pixels if you can because M's
Mm-hmm.
are much nicer for being responsive as a design versus a pixel.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I'd say that with with the block builders as well, the as they're developing the more full site systems, I think that that's also one other thing we kind of talked about was like that the the troubles that WordPress is trying to make to work out with like having an old system that they can't entirely get rid of because it's just some people just they're not going to update, and so you're trying to find that happy medium between I need to update things and not break existing systems, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like having to interface with it in a way that like the core of WordPress stays pretty consistent and updates obviously as there's new PHP that gets updated and stuff like that, and like whatever issues need to get resolved for security, but like still have it fundamentally still working as the same system that they had 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a tall order for how fast the internet moves, is to be able to have this interface that you can interact with, and then it takes a step back and then still like seems seamless on the back end as far as like an average person using it and still make it feel like user friendly and still, which is like a pretty tall order if you ask me. Like that's something like it's not something I'm going to be jumping at like reinventing that to make it like make this user friendly.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think they've done an excellent job in transitioning to newer things without drastically breaking any old things. I mean, I don't know behind the scenes how many hoops they're really trying to jump through to keep things working or have things get upgraded to more modern code and things like that. But I can imagine it's quite challenging.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just to dive a little bit into it, because I do know a little bit, because they were big pioneers of what's called a headless CMS. So
Yeah.
what they did is they decoupled, like, when you go into WP admin, that's all just like mostly PHP, and like the actual thing you interact with is React, which is like really cutting edge JavaScript library from Facebook. And it's really like does a good job interfacing, and then you do all your stuff, and then when you hit that save button, it translates everything you did into PHP on the back end. And so that's kind of what they did, is they have like a little endpoint that takes in what you're doing. And I think that was a smart move on their part, was to decouple how you and I interact with WordPress with
Hmm.
what actually gets saved to the database, like, or how it gets translated back, because it's not JavaScript, it gets translated to PHP and then it gets saved to the database. And
Hmm.
so I think once they decoupled that, it did open up more opportunities for them, and then they slowly move away from things like the old school way of like using kind of what we're talking about with the full site editing of like, first it was the pages with the blocks, but now it's like the footer and the header and those loops that, like, because it's technically just a loop that you open up header, and like how that gets, you interact with it. It used to be through the customize and it was super limited, but now they can open it up a lot more so that you can actually really like build it out and have it be consistent. And so I think that it was more new ways for them to figure out how to actually engage with different elements that used to exist, like the customize button.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, if we dive a little bit deeper into the full site editing and what it actually is like you said, it's the progression of what the block builder is for page building
Mm-hmm.
made so that you can use that same experience to build out the entire website itself, including navigation, headers, footers, um, content, anything, any aspect of your site. And traditionally, WordPress themes and still the majority of people that are building WordPress themes or WordPress sites are using a theme that is not a block theme, but it has that customizer that we're all familiar with when you install a theme and then you get that customizer option and it
Mm-hmm.
loads and there's a bunch of things that you can customize about the header and the footer and other aspects. So that's the traditional way that and what most people are still doing today.
Yeah.
And so the discussion today was sort of about where block themes are and where the block editor is, and whether or not it's feasible to actually choose a block theme and start using the block editor to build out all of those things. And my feeling is currently that while there is a lot that you can do, the experience is not yet there to actually use a block theme and build out the site like that yet. And we're getting closer, and block themes are still fairly new. So I'm still sticking with a highly customizable theme and still using that customizer to be able to do the headers and footers, and then using the block builder still for the page content.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like a cadence theme is, I think, like a good compromise between, because I know we're both kind of proponents of like using cadence, because it basically it extends out what WordPress core was doing already, rather than like kind of putting this layer between you and the WordPress core, like a Elementor or a Divi, where it's doing its own thing and then it translates it into the WordPress side,
Mm-hmm.
versus like a cadence where you're actually like taking what's already existing and maybe extending it so it has a couple new design features that didn't exist already.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a better way to go, and I think that's more what the future is going to hold, because the core of it is they've made some pretty big improvements of recent note for people, especially non-technical people. I mean, having a couple of like fully custom WordPress websites that I'm working on maintaining, like it's a pain to deal with. Like PHP sucks. A WordPress core sucks. Like, it's no fault on their own. It was just, again, 20 years old. No one really knew what web design, how you're supposed to set it up. And
Hmm.
now you're kind of stuck with this old, antiquated way of doing things. And it's just, it's not fun. Like, it really isn't. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
much have,
The other thing I want to mention about block themes is the experience of in the admin
mm,
to build out that block theme and all of the things, the headers and footers and stuff like that, is a different. It's a newer admin style than people are used to. Um, because of the fact that there's so many things that you need to be able to do in the block theme to be able to build out all of those assets. They've really changed the admin and the look, and it's a little bit um, disconnected from what people are used to in the admin. And I'm hoping that they actually um, sooner than later tie in the admin experience in both sections so that it's so it doesn't feel so disconnected like it is right now. So there's a much different experience while building out your block based theme than the traditional themes right now.
yeah.
People will have to adjust and get used to that and figure out where everything is and learn how that works and stuff like that. And I think before people fully transition into a block based theme, it'll be important to almost start using things in small pieces so that they get used to the new way that it's done or the new layout that experience that you have in that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there'll be some growing pains. I imagine with moving how people's workflow is and how new websites are getting created or maintaining old websites. I think that there's going to be a bit of a transition period, but like, oh, it's going to be the case no matter what. I think that there. I've heard Matt Mullenweg talk about like he's not quick to make these decisions. Like he's not just going to do it on a whim
Mm-hmm.
because like I mean it's a third of the internet runs on WordPress, so he's not just going to make a breaking change. Like they're going to make sure that they'll test it, they'll move it out slowly because he's basically dealing with that whole bell curve of like accepting new technology and adoption, right? WordPress is going to cover the whole gamut between people who are like highly experimental, want to try the latest and greatest thing, to I never want to look at it. I just want it to be up there and send me form submissions, when people want to book me.
Mm-hmm.
He's dealing with the whole gamut of people.
Yeah, and let me say for new people, it may be worthwhile to just jump right into block themes because it will be the way of the future, all future themes. But if you've been in WordPress for a long time and you're sort of used to that experience that you get right now, that's what I mean about dipping your toe in for these other things that you will be getting with block based themes. Don't I wouldn't switch right now because the experience is quite a bit different in building out your block theme. But new people just getting in that don't know anything about the old, those people might have an easier time just grabbing a block based theme and just going for it because they don't have that old experience of knowing how it currently works. they'll just jump in and be like, "Oh, block base. This is what I do. Oh, I can build this. I can build that," and just go for it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would definitely say something. Yeah, if you're new, just jump into the newer stuff. Like, don't torture yourself with some of the older ones. Like, unless you have to, like you're maintaining someone else's website or something like that. Um, I don't really see much value. I think also we forgot to mention that this is all being precipitated by the core update and the new 2025 theme that's getting released. That's supposed to be built all around this.
Hmm.
Um, and then I also, you mentioned that kind of leading off of our news segment that we had is that like the advanced custom fields, very popular plugin
Hmm.
that is also owned by WP Engine. That their WordPress might be eating into their lunch by having some features that will basically enable it natively to do that. So you won't have to install that
Hmm.
extra plugin.
Yeah, I wish I remembered what that was called because it wasn't called. Because we all think of it as custom post types, and they're not really referring to it as that. Um, and probably that's because if you said custom post type to someone, they would not know what the hell you're talking about for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Where so if this functionality is just going to be built in and natively in WordPress, they're probably I'll have to post what they were calling it, but I'm sure they're calling it something that will mean something more to the average user that needs to create something, as opposed to calling it that more custom programming language jargon of custom post type. Um,
Yeah.
I think it says I think it's something content. Um, yeah, but it basically implies, you know, being able to create, custom content within your site that
Mm,
is handled separately from, just going to the page and creating a page, or going to a post and creating a blog post. But I'll post that in the comments when I take a look later at what this is called. But yes, it's something that's in the works. It's only available currently if you actually download it from their repository on GitHub, and install it. So I mean, would you even call that alpha? I don't know what you would call that, but
I mean, I put it at beta. Like, generally, like alpha is usually like you have to be like on an email list to receive the zip. Like, if they're putting it like on GitHub where it's accessible to people, I'd call that a beta. So you'd at least
yeah,
have to like know what GitHub is, know to download.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's not quite like, yeah, it's not quite like we don't know if this is gonna work. Or the other way, I think this is like it's what's it called? Chrome waterfall, which
Mm,
is like that's like alpha. Like if you download that, you are expecting your Chrome to break and
mm-hmm,
break frequently because it's like the most advanced stages versus like Chrome Canary, which is like it's stable, but it's got some experimental features
mm-hmm.
versus like Chrome that most people download, which is like getting your regular WordPress. Like, you know, uh, actually, have you ever been to that website? Have you ever seen the Chromium website? You can see every release that's out there. It's a wild, like, sorry, it just
That's
reminded
never-
me of that. Yeah, I found it. It's like pure HTML. There's no CSS that's touching this website, and it's just a raw. It looks like a time portal back to 1996, and it's just like here's the latest Chromium update, and it's like there's like different versions that are just like super unstable that you can download and you know where they are, and it's just
Yeah.
like a so it's the people that are like working on the actual like engine of Chrome.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can see all like the different versions because I thought like Chrome Canary was really out there, and then I saw this thing. I was like, wow, that's Chrome Canary is like vanilla compared to what spicy versions you can get that are like just break right away. Anyway, sorry,
Mhm.
slight digression there.
Yeah, no, one of the things I was going to say, because you mentioned Cadence, and Cadence is not a block-based theme. They have a highly customizable header and footer section and
Mm,
settings to, control the style, colors, fonts, buttons, all that kind of stuff. But they have just released a header builder, which
Hmm.
you can use to replace the experience in Cadence, where you just go into the customizer and build out your header with all of the settings that you have. They have so they're while it's not considered a block based theme yet, this is potentially the start of what the experience could be for people who use Cadence to actually have that full block based builder option to build out your header. And
Mm.
it's quite sophisticated. There's a lot you can do, but it's a lot more. So the customizer allows you to do a certain number of things, whereas the block builder will let you do anything. So when you're
Hmm.
building it, there's a lot more things you do have to do and consider while building it. So the block based theme editing experience will be more time consuming because of the fact that you do have so much more control over how everything is built. So people should keep that in mind as well if they're considering going with a block theme now versus the more current traditional themes.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of kind of hybrid transitions as well that are going to be popping up there as people adjust to how the news, because there's also going to be some like pushback from theme developers and how what their requirements are in order to like put together themes. So and I'm sure that that community is giving feedback and letting them know what's working, what's not working, and what can be quality of life for not only theme developers but end users, like all kinds of different. Again, like they have a whole spectrum of users that they have to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure that it's not a not fun to have to deal with the headache of that.
Yeah, no, it won't be. And even I'm looking at all of the things you can do with some of these this block um, header builder that they've released, and I'm like, man, that's a lot more work. Can I
Yeah,
just keep
yeah,
using the customizer? I mean, for the most part, I can achieve almost any layout that I really want, and and the new block header builder that they've released, there's so much customization you can do, and it's great. I love being able to having the option to build the header in any way I want with any block with any content
yeah,
and that kind of thing. But it's like, man, that's going to be a lot more time consuming to build it
yeah,
that way.
yeah. I think that it's yeah, I suspect that it's going to be right off the bat it's going to be a lot more time consuming. My suspicion is they're probably going to have some more templating system that's going to come up with it so that you can import and export uh, templates of like page layouts and stuff.
Mhm,
That's my suspicion that they're going to do more of that because
mhm.
that fits more into the AI stuff that I know that it's going to be big for them, whether we like it or not. They're going to web
Yeah.
development people are going to be doing that, and I feel like a way to curb those AI systems from doing something incredibly stupid is having like a template, like, hey, I have this layout, and then add this picture on the side, and whatever this block of text there. And
Mhm.
so it's a way to kind of also speed up web development as well, or web designing. Is that if you already have like specific layouts that you like using, that it's going to be easier to replicate that on different websites.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't considered that, but it's quite possible that there will be a lot more people who build out custom headers and footers that are all block based that you could just select, just like in your page experience, where you're like, I'm looking for like a team bio layout. Look through the patterns or templates and be like, oh, I like that one, and you just pick it and it pulls it in and into the page, and it's all set up. You just have to change the images and team team information, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And I think that that's
I'm
gonna.
sure there will be a lot of options in the future for different header footer styles that you can just look through the pattern library and be like, I like that one, and then finish it off with some additional styling. What I was referring to was more like building it out from scratch
Yeah,
is
yeah,
has
that's what I was
become
saying. It's like you're like doing it from scratch, but like
yeah
you do it once and then you save it. Then it's just like, okay, now we just export that and then import it into another website or like have.
yeah yeah yeah
Uh,
for sure. And
yeah,
I just wanted to, I know we're at time here for the discussion, but I just wanted to mention to people, if you're worried about whether or not your theme is a block based theme or not, the WordPress repository, when you're installing, there's a tab to just search through block based themes. I
mm,
think otherwise in the gallery, I don't know if block themes are listed in there. I think they might only be listed in the section of block themes. Don't quote me on that, but I
yeah,
believe that.
that sounds right to me when I was looking through it. But I'll admit, it's been a while since I've like done any sort of deep dive on it, so I couldn't
Mhm.
100% speak to it. But yeah, that does sound right to me.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we are out of time. And this has been a fun chat. And I think next week it looks like Rena and Pip are talking about building social media strategies around target personas.
Hmm.
So that should be a fun one. And yeah, until then, my name is Phelan.
And I'm Greg. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye for now.